nothing's on TV again this week. I guess I better keep my glasses on. Thanks for joining me. Always like to start off with a little humor. Woman shopping for shampoo for dry and damaged hair. Man shopping for shampoo. 6-in-1 shampoo for hair, face, body, carpet, car, and dishes. Makes sense to me. I pretended to be asleep and then I fell asleep. Now I'm pretending to be skinny. The distance it takes for me to forget a number between 1 and 10. And this has actually happened to me. A rare photograph of my parents on their way to school. You may connect with that. The trouble with quotes on the internet is that it's difficult to determine whether or not they are genuine. Abraham Lincoln. Something no one ever said in the 70s, I've lost my phone. Ours was attached to the wall, so there was no way to lose it. I miss being able to slam my phone down when I hang up on somebody. Violently pressing the end call just doesn't do it for me. I do totally relate with that. COVID-19 in Westminster, no resident cases. You all are behaving so well. Keep up the good work. We have 2 associate cases. They're light symptoms, and they both work in healthcare, right? Yeah. Light symptoms, 2 cases amongst our associates. Health center visitation guidelines have stayed the same. There's no visitation limit. Everyone, including residents, must wear a mask when you visit assisted living or the healthcare center. Joe and Cassie will kick you out if you're not wearing a mask. Please follow all precautionary guidelines, including wearing a surgical mask when you go in. Questions and answers. And I quoted these directly as they were sent to me. There are an unacceptable number and variety of functional failures of systems and construction. Is there consideration given to the lack of general habitability these failures cause, and what systemically is being done to address the overarching issue, in addition to the attempts to address each failure individually? Yes. There are always considerations given when there are patterns of failures. That is why many of the projects around the campus have been accomplished and continue to be. When a failure occurs in any way, there are interventions put in place to prevent the failure from occurring in the future when possible. We also partner with professionals to forecast replacements for us. And I just provided a quote here to help inspire. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break. I had to remind my wife of that recently. She said, I think the universe is against us. Everything keeps breaking. I told her, the more you have, the more breaks. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go. Love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. And sometimes we're the light that is solving the brokenness. That's my technical answer. Are both the Westminster Board and LCS aware of the severity and number of failures? I am curious to know if preventative measures for failures are being assessed relative to expenses. Employee, contractor incompetence or error. Is there a thorough assessment being made so that the root cause can be determined and future errors can be precluded or reduced? Absolutely. We are very transparent with both the board and LCS residents and associates. Some of you that are resident members of the board can verify for me, because you've seen me cry in the board meetings because of, no, just kidding. At least annual assessments are completed on the entire campus when planning capital replacements. A forecasting model is also used. We worked with a company a few years ago called Zumbrunnan that produced a forecast model. It's not a very accurate forecast model. For instance, in that forecast model, the chillers on the Windsor building were not going to fail in 10 years. It was going to be 20. So we're working on that. It's not a crystal ball though. When such equipment is needing replaced, We look at that forecast model and we make adaptations to it. Yes, when a contractor or employee makes an error, they are held accountable to that standard. So sometimes they're educated, and sometimes it's more severe than education. Sometimes they're not allowed to work on our campus anymore. That's happened before. Our residents who are having to vacate their apartments due to water, power, structure failures being compensated anyway for the inconvenience and angst caused by the moves? Yes. Westminster has historically done this. Regarding the Laurel and Bistro cards for evaluations of servers, 5 stars can result in an increase in hourly compensation to the employee. How does this work? Does one 5-star card increase their compensation for that shift, or for a week, or a pay period, or what? I'm going to answer that on the following slide. So it's a little small to read, but the bonus incentive program is for hospitality ambassadors, servers. So you may remember over a year and a half ago, we were having difficulty hiring associates. We were having, especially for the front of the house, the dining folks. Nobody wants to be a server anymore or a waitress. So we created a title called Hospitality Ambassadors. We created a training program. Hospitality ambassadors are eligible for an incentive every pay period, and it's for a week at a time. There are 4 tier levels for this incentive, each worth $50 per week. So an associate that is in the front of the house essentially could make an extra $200 a week just by having 5-star service, right? So if they do a job, if they wait on your tables and they do an extraordinary job and they're at that 5-star, they get 100% of that $200. If they're at 4 stars, they're going to get 75% of that $200, which is $150. If they don't make 4 or 5 stars, they're still eligible for $100. $100, you have to be on time to work, not miss shifts unless you have a legitimate reason like a sickness or something like that. You wear your uniform and it's clean and crisp. You do all your side work, things like that. Things that are easy to accomplish. We want to actually pay out this incentive. What I tried to do was create a program that tips, or at least allows us to compete with restaurants to tip, but you can't tip, right? Because we're an organization that accepts Medicare dollars, federal funds, and you cannot accept tips, right? Our associates can't accept tips, and you cannot give them. So this allows us to compete with other folks, like Chili's and Applebee's and other places that do give tips. So, and it's working. We are filling the positions in the front of the house. You have new servers, new hospitality ambassadors. They're doing a great job. And for the first time in years, even during the pandemic, we're almost fully staffed, which is great. The associates are eligible each pay period. So if you have a bad week, you're eligible the next pay period. So you know, we're also coaching the associate. So the floor supervisors, when they see an associate that's not doing 5-star service, they're not living up to that 5-star mentality, then we're taking them aside and coaching them on how to get that 5 stars. We want them to get it. The incentives are achievable. I used to wait tables myself. Some of you maybe have. It's not difficult to do a good job waiting tables if you are paying attention to your clients and really trying to do your level best. You can be successful in this program. I would ask you to fill out the cards. Be honest when you provide the feedback. If it's not 5-star service, I know you love our associates, but the goal is not only to incentivize everybody to provide that 5-star level service, but also teach them along the way. If you inflate the numbers just to, oh, I love Chuck, he did such a, well, no, he didn't do a good job, but I like him, he's nice. You're not really teaching me anything, right? And we all want to do the best job that we're capable of, so do provide that feedback. Any questions about the service incentive program? Okay. How was the decision made to install a fine dining concept restaurant? What reasoning went into that decision? Seems it may be driven primarily by marketing research, competition rather than resident need or preference. And my answer to that would be several things went into this decision. We did several years ago, as part of our master planning, we did an LCS facility amenity assessment, where LCS development came in and did an assessment of our community, and we worked with LCS development in planning and designing what we have today, and also for planning and designing the next phase of what we're going to have. Yes, we absolutely do look at the competition. We don't want to be beat. We want to be first class, number one in the market, and we want to be that way for all of you. We do absolutely listen to residents and your feedback, and we also master plan and try to create destination spaces. Destination spaces, some of you residents have heard me talk about before. That's really creating a different environment, a different menu, and a reason for you to visit the various dining rooms around the campus. Not everything is the same. So the Laurel has a new liquor license. The Laurel is a little quieter. It's a little slower. It's more formal. The Bistro is faster, healthier, noisier. The energy is different in each one of those spaces, and what we're trying to do is build value for you, value for your residency, so that you can go to the Rowan and experience something different than you do in the Bistro. And you can have a place to take your grandkids and have a smoothie, or you can have, if you want a fine dining experience and some dry aged steaks, you can go up to the Rowan and have that. If you want a cocktail lounge, you've got the Rowan. If you want just beer and wine, you've got the Laurel. So really just trying to create an extraordinary community experience for you. And I know sometimes you're looking at things from a resident perspective only and only in the present moment, but I have to plan and the board has to plan for today's competition and tomorrow's competition in Westminster's future. And that's always what we're trying to do as a leadership team. That's my answer there. Allowing reservations for unlimited guests for holiday meals before residents have an opportunity to make reservations creates a problem for residents who plan to dine at home here at Westminster on holidays. Can food and beverage find a better way? We will look at this as the demand continues to increase. I'll tell you that Easter this year kind of rocked our world. We've never really had that many people for Easter. It's usually been one of our lighter holidays. Mother's Day, we typically know is going to be really busy. But this was an incredibly busy Easter. In the future, we're probably going to have 2 dining venues open. But we will adapt. But we don't want to stop you being able to bring in guests. We think that is great for everyone. We don't want to be detrimental to any residents that live here, but we want to allow you the option to bring in your family and enjoy a good meal for holidays. And we're going to continue to work towards that. And if we had some inconveniences at Easter, I apologize. We don't want that to happen. We want everybody to experience a great holiday meal. Please remind residents that when they hold the elevator to have an extended chat with someone, they are being inconsiderate of resident staff on other floors waiting for the elevator. Residents, please consider yourselves reminded. There are great places all over the campus to have chats. If you're interested in knowing a place that maybe you don't know about now, let me know and I'll be happy to share it with you. I noticed staff struggling to open the double doors from the tunnel to the drive area on the south side of the Windsor garage. Usually pushing a full heavy cart, would it be possible to put automatic doors there? We will consider this for a future installation. We'll look at that. I would like to ask Chuck to tell us when we can expect to return to pre-COVID visitor entrance sign-up procedures with no series of COVID questions and no temperature checks. I don't really have an answer to that question, except that I don't believe it's going to stop anytime soon. And one of the reasons for that is that the pandemic taught us that having these procedures in place for screening really protects us not only from COVID and the coronavirus and the pandemic, but also potentially protects us from other things, like the flu, or viruses, or norovirus, things like that. We're gonna continue to screen temperatures, and we're gonna continue to screen people through, and I think, that's better than not screening. So we will change the language probably over the next few months and try to make it a little bit more efficient to sign in, because I know it's several clicks before you get signed in, and we'll look at those procedures. But as far as the temperature screening and the asking of questions, we're gonna continue to do that. Can you please update us on the rabbits in the courtyard? If this gets unruly, call security. The rabbits will be taken to a wildlife sanctuary over the next few weeks. Please do not feed the wildlife around the campus. And they're eating the landscape. How many people want pretty landscape? Raise your hands, you know you will. Okay, that's what I thought. So you can't have rabbits in pretty landscape. Not in an enclosed courtyard. Don't feed the wildlife. Why not? Because it makes them dependent upon us, and then they get unruly. Anybody ever had a squirrel in a building? It's not good. Ruth's office one time, a squirrel got into Ruth's office, and there's a Ray Stevens song, and it didn't do it justice. But the squirrel went berserk in Ruth's office, and it was a mess. So let's not feed the wildlife. When will the Rowan menu be on the portal? The menu is already on the portal. We were told that in April we would be able to make dining reservations for any of the restaurants via the portal or an app. Is that going to happen? Yes, it will happen. The software has been purchased and is already on site, but it requires its own server, and the server has been ordered, but has not been delivered yet. And electrical devices are really backlogged right now. We hope to have this in place soon. So ideally, you'll be able to make reservations on this new application through your resident portal, and also order through the portal. Do we have visitor parking? Yes. Where will it be in the future? Visitor parking is located between the Preston and Windsor building at the marketing entrance, also along the Mopac wall on the west side of the Windsor and Carlisle. Once the Windsor remodel is completed, there will be more visitor parking at the North Windsor entrance. Some visitor parking is available in the Carlisle garage. If you have a visitor that comes several times a week, more than 20 hours a week, let us know and we can designate a spot in the Carlisle parking garage, okay? For now, we have a lot of projects that are going on in the campus. There's a lot of contractor vehicles, and they're taking up some of our visitor parking. We also are parking some of the contractors' vehicles in the Carlisle parking garage. But there is a lot of visitor parking if you really look around for it. When the Windsor building remodeling is finished, will you be able to walk through the Windsor building through the Windsor courtyard to the Carlisle? The answer is yes. And just going to show you real quickly. No, I'm not. Maybe I am. Oh, there we go. So you will be, when this is finished, this work that's occurring in this area, you will be able to go through here and get to the Carlisle. Be careful though, because the residents don't always see you. There's rabbits in the Windsor courtyard as well. And unruly squirrels at times. Would you please remind everyone that cell phone use for making or receiving calls is prohibited in our 3 dining rooms? Recently, I've noticed folks receiving calls while dining and having the speaker phone on. This has happened often lately, and hoping a reminder will stop the rude behavior. How many of you believe that it's rude to speak on a cell phone in the dining room? Okay, those that didn't raise their hand, turn around and slap. No, just kidding. There was nobody. Everybody believes that, so it shouldn't be a problem. I have told the staff to address it when they see it occur. And if you don't see them address it, please bring it to their attention. Residents, please consider yourself reminded. Please do not use cell phones in your dining rooms or restaurants. Would you please remind everyone to back away from the elevator doors and let folks off before crowding into the elevators? Yes. Residents, please consider yourself reminded while we are at it. Let's talk about some elevator etiquette. This will be discussed on the next slide. So here we go, 11 elevator etiquette rules. Make way for others to exit as needed on their floors by stepping out if necessary. Be polite when getting off a crowded elevator. State, "This is my floor." Don't be rude with the close button. Especially when I'm approaching the elevator, don't push shut. Only use the emergency buttons in actual emergencies. Just because you want to make out with your spouse is no reason to use the emergency button, right? Don't stop the elevator. Go to your apartment, find a room someplace. Don't engage in inappropriate activity like smoking, drinking, eating, putting on makeup, talking on cell phones, etc. in the elevator. Anybody put on their makeup in the elevator? So proud of you. Keep noise down. Manage baggage and other items considerately, meaning keep them near to you. Don't be holding a tray out here or your luggage out here. Put it next to you so that you're not crowding others on the elevator. Protect your personal space and those of others. Don't bump into people. If you do, apologize. Don't try to run anybody over with your motor scooter. Use common sense when pressing the buttons. Don't press them all because they're pretty. Just press the button that you need. Pay attention to the elevator direction. If the elevator is going up and you're wanting to go down, don't get on the elevator. I did that recently, so I'm going to try to do better. Wait for people to exit before entering the elevator. Makes sense? Okay. Can you provide an update on the Rowan and the Rowan Cocktail Lounge? Yes, we are still in a soft open at the Rowan Dining Room, limited to around 50 and asking for reservations. No outside guests yet. We have just received our liquor license and will be working towards stocking the Rowan Cocktail Lounge. We hope to have it open soon. Likely the second week of May. We may do a soft open in this area as well. All residents are welcome. Did everybody know all residents are welcome to use the Rowan Dining Room? Anybody think they can't go there because they live in the Preston? That's good. I was told that there was some confusion. Some residents think they can't use it. It doesn't matter where you live, all the restaurants, you can use any of the restaurants, okay? The liquor, so we received the liquor license day before yesterday, but we haven't received the liquor yet. And we had, like every vendor, we mailed them a check. They didn't like that. They want to receive the check in their hand when they drop off the liquor. And so we had to cancel that check and cut them another one, but we're working on stocking. And they needed my social security number and driver's license number, and they know where I live too, in case we don't pay our bill. I don't know. Pretty complicated, but. Can you remind everyone of the campus shuttle? I know that there was some confusion with the memo that went out. So the Westminster Campus Shuttle service is available for your use. It's not a new service. We've had it continuously, even when we were parking off-site, and we tried to move residents around the campus as best we could. If you can use the shuttle to get in between the buildings. The shuttle is not for you to go to Eddie B's downtown. It's only for moving around the campus. Please contact reception or security when you need it and request the shuttle. You can request it from any building. The shuttle service is available from 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. 7 days a week. So if you get three margaritas and you can't make it back to your apartment walking, you can call the shuttle and they'll take you. This is for on-campus use only between the buildings, and it's for resident convenience, okay? Any questions about that? What is going on with the 5th floor of B-Wing Preston? We are doing repairs of the HVAC water lines, so the heating and air conditioning water lines. And this is what they look like. They look like they need a little repair. So the insulation looked really great. But when we peeled back, we had a little bit of a dripping on a ceiling tile. And we pulled back the insulation and we found some pinholes in these pipes. And rather than have a flood of the entire building, we decided to shut down the air conditioning system and do a pipe replacement. The ironic thing is that this is an expansion section of the building that occurred in 1976. The core of the Preston building, the oldest part, is still in great shape. So this expansion section broke down for some reason. It got rusted and so the copper and steel where it was meeting broke down, and so we went through a replacement of this wings plumbing. We'll be looking at the rest of the Preston as well over the next few months. Most of the time when you see a wet ceiling tile, it's condensation, but this was an actual leak. Can you help us understand the liquor license and what it means to us? I don't know really if I can, but I'll try. So I understand that over the last couple weeks we've confiscated some liquor that's been brought in to the dining room. You can bring in wine and beer, but you have to be careful about bringing in gin and unlabeled items, bourbon, things like that. You are allowed, flasks. Somebody suggests I give out a Westminster flask. You are allowed to bring any type of alcoholic drink to the bistro because it doesn't have a liquor license. But in the Laurel and the Rowan, you have to be careful about the kind of liquors that you bring in. You can't bring in Everclear, you can't bring in rum, you can't bring in gin, bourbon, trying to think of others, vodka. You also have to have everything labeled and properly labeled. You can't just write on a marker, moonshine. You can't bring in moonshine either, by the way. But you can bring whatever you want to the bistro. But those two areas that have a liquor license, we have to monitor and restrict because we could lose our liquor license. And we don't want, it took us almost a year and 8 months to get it, so we don't want to lose it now that we've got it. So just try to cooperate best you can with that. I'm not going to go over this again. Thank you for participating in the tornado drill the other day. Little update, signage for exterior complete except for one sign needs to be removed. Interior signage package is under production. Correction signage is included. Windsor carpet replacement has begun. They're still on the 5th floor. Spectrum Wi-Fi in the final phase of wire pulling. The last phase of hardware install will be coming soon. So we'll be reaching out to you all to actually come into your apartment and install those wireless access points where those wires are sticking out of your wall. Solar roof project has been completed on the Preston and Windsor DC side. Also work was done to complete the connection of the Windsor solar grid to the electrical power grid, and that shutdown occurred and was successful. The Carlisle installation of its grid is underway, so this Windsor project in Carlisle should be coming on board or coming online really quickly. And then we'll have like displays in the lobby showing how much power we're creating. The Preston's more complicated. We walked through with some electrical engineers to figure out how we can connect the Preston solar grid to the Preston power. It's a little older, so it's going to take us a little longer. The boiler project approved, work to begin in mid-May. That's for the Windsor. So the Windsor new boiler project will be installed mid-May, and they've actually received most of the equipment except for a storage tank. So that's supposed to be delivered early May. And then the Preston boiler project, you may have noticed that there's a new fenced-in area underneath the carports on the west side of the Preston. That area is for us to work on, it's a laydown area to work on putting pipes together there. The boilers will be stored in there. It'll be a secured area, and it'll give them an opportunity to do their work as we raise those things up onto the Preston building. And this project is to replace all of the boilers in the Preston building and locate them in a central location. It'll take about 5 months for us to complete that work. Windsor admin and lobby reconfiguration is almost complete. Veterans wall, we talked about, there's a centerpiece to be installed and then a new frame around it. Preston and Windsor chillers are ordered. They're still on track. Actually, no, they're not on track. They'll be received early May, and then we'll start installing them in mid-May. Grand opening celebration for Carlisle residents, city officials will be on June. It's June what? It's not correct. There it is. There is an open house event Friday, April the 28th at 1 p.m. for residents. If you want to come by and have some light hors d'oeuvres, maybe popcorn and toast or something. And tours available as well. Just kidding about the popcorn and toast. I'm sure it'll be better than that. Westminster art book is available in the little store. Keep that in mind if you haven't purchased your copy. Been a pretty good year so far. I'm not going to go through all this. Are we still selling tickets to the Resident Association wine tasting fundraiser today?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right. So tickets are available. They'll be available at the back of the room after this chat today. Please purchase your tickets. That's a great cause to support, and it sounds like a great event. And that's all I have. My special guest today is Cassie Gatelli, which I call Cassie Haley a lot. Cassie is our community administrator. And before we get it, she's going to talk to you about a topic called QAPI, which is a fascinating program. But before we start there, I wanted to talk, how did you get here? What brought you here, Cassie?
Chuck brought me here.
So you came here a few years ago as part of
The professional development program, so Life Care Services, who Chuck and I work for, they have a professional development program for executive directors. So they take professionals like myself and you interview, and then if you're lucky enough, you get to go to a community like Westminster and you train for a year to become a community administrator. So Chuck was my preceptor. He trained me for a year to become a health center administrator. I received my license, and then I went to Connecticut for 3 years to run my own health center. And then one day I got a call from Chuck out of the blue and said, "Hey, we have an opening, want to come back?" And I came back.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, so what got you into senior living in the first place?
So my backstory, I am adopted. My mom and dad were 26 years apart in age. So my father passed away in 2010. He was 81 years old. I was 17. My grandma is actually younger than my father. So I was always around seniors my entire life. My grandma lives with my mom still. Her mom, I lived with them my entire life until I moved out. So I've always been with seniors. I've always loved working with seniors. Learning y'all's stories is amazing. And so I wanted to get into something with seniors. So I also went to school in Michigan, and I got a degree in psychology with a focus in gerontology, which is the study of the elderly. And then I also have my master's in health center administration. So I wanted to combine my love for y'all and healthcare administration. So that's how I kind of got into it.
Do you have a secret talent that these folks might not know about?
I do. I'm a classically trained ballet dancer. So actually, when I was an administrator in training here, I did teach some ballet classes. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, maybe when we do a talent show. Yeah, you could do that.
So I did. I danced. I've danced since I was 3 years old. That's I'm a classically trained ballet dancer, and it helped me get through college. That's what my scholarships were for. So I actually have a degree in dance as well.
So before she gets into her presentation, one of the things that I get asked about often is how do we get a 5-star rating, and who does it come from? And so, you know, our healthcare center, the Arbor, it has been 5-star rated for 14 years, and what helps that rating comes from Medicare services, and actually all nursing homes are ranked by this 5-star rating platform. Only 10% of nursing homes across the country can achieve a 5-star rating, and every year the criteria gets harder and harder. When I came to work here back in 2008, we were a 1-star facility. In 6 months, we became 4 stars, and then we became 5 stars in the following 6 months. And but what that comes from is a minimum data set that gets submitted, and it tracks residents' well-being and quality measures for the community. And this program, QAPI, that Cassidy's going to tell us about, it drives the quality assurance for our organization and helps us maintain that 5-star rating. Okay? And that's the little preamble to Cassie's presentation. Go ahead.
All right.
And you can use this if it's working.
So QAPI, it stands for Quality Assurance and then Performance Improvement. So quality assurance is the data portion. It's all the data that we collect, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the performance improvement is using that data to make improvements. Because if I don't use the data, why am I collecting it? The federal regulation is to have QAPI quarterly. Here at Westminster, we have it monthly because we believe in being proactive rather than reactive. If we find there's an issue, we want to solve it before it becomes a bigger problem. Because if I wait 3 months to fix something, it's much harder to fix, right? So that's what QAPI stands for. So the outcome of QAPI in our organization is the quality of care and the quality of life of our residents. It is the goal of QAPI to improve the quality of care and the quality of life in our health center. QAPI includes all employees, all departments, and all services. So during this meeting that we hold monthly, all the different departments are present, and they report on the data for their department, so that every department, if there's an issue, they bring it to our attention, and we create a performance improvement plan to fix the concern or the issue. And then the QAPI focuses on systems and processes rather than individuals. The emphasis is on identifying systems rather than blaming an individual. It's not about getting anybody in trouble. If there's a problem, there's a system issue, and we want to fix the system to fix the entire thing, right? Okay. So this is all the different type of data that is reviewed during these monthly meetings. So we have environmental services, staffing, so how many open positions we have, how many have we filled, medical records, are there any issues with the medical records that we have? Joe, our assisted living director, comes to discuss any assisted living issues. How many falls did we have in the health center for the month? How many events? So events could be anything from a tiny, tiny skin tear to a bruise. So we go through everything that's happened in the health center for that month. Any wounds that may have occurred that month with our residents. Any infections that have occurred and what antibiotics were used for those infections. We also have a nurse consultant that comes once a quarter. She comes twice a year and does 2 virtual visits. So any concerns that she finds, we go through and put a plan in place to correct. Our rehospitalization rate, very important. So we track any residents that come into our health center. If they have to go out to the hospital during their stay, why? Why did they have to go out? And why was that important? Could we have cared for them in the facility?
Why does that matter? And what is ours? The
Well,
rehospitalization rate.
Our rehospitalization rate is very low. It's 0% for the year thus far. So.
And the industry average is around 16%, right?
So it's important for several reasons. Quality of care for our residents, right? But the second reason is we will get dinged monetarily for sending someone back to the health center. So, hospital, yes. So 2 reasons. We go through dietary, that's supposed to say weight loss. So dietary comes, and then we go through weight loss, any weight loss or hydration concerns. The director of therapy comes and we talk about everybody on therapy. Pharmacy comes to talk about medications being used and how we can reduce any types of medications being used. Social services comes to discuss grievances, what the grievances were for the month and how did we resolve them. State survey activity, so if state was in the building, why were they in the building, what was the outcome, and is there anything that we need to fix? We go through any resident council concerns. We have resident council once a month, so any concerns that are brought up there and how they were resolved. And then safety committee, so our employees are part of safety committee. Did we have any injuries? Why did we have injuries, and what did we do to resolve them? So after we review all of that data with all the departments, our medical director also attends those meetings. We discuss what decisions need to be made based on all of that information. Where are our pain points? Where are our points of concern that we need to put a performance improvement plan in place to fix? So if I had an 85-bed health center like we do, and I have 50 falls, I clearly have an issue, right? So then I talk with the interdisciplinary team, and we discuss, how do we fix this? What is the root cause for all of these falls? And then we put a plan in place to fix it. And then we review that plan at least monthly to see, is it working, is it not working, and what changes do we need to make if it isn't working. So we set goals for performance. So if I had 50 falls, my goal is 30, and then my goal after that is 20, and then 15, and then we get to a minimum amount of falls that we want to be at. Our culture supports performance improvement, and we have a culture that encourages everyone to take part in these performance improvement projects. So to identify areas of improvement, we focus on problematic areas. We look for patterns and trends where there are concerns, and we pay attention to systems that are frustrating to staff, residents, and families. So if our associates come forward with an issue, we also will bring that to QAPI. So if I'm seeing a lot of back injuries for whatever reason, if that's happening in the health center, well, why are we having all those back issues with our associates? And then we would put a plan in place for them as well. So we want to make sure that our associates are taken care of as well as our residents. Any questions for me?
Wow, how'd you do that?
I don't know.
I don't know, that's really cool. So, who are these people?
So that is me with my son AJ, Anthony Joseph Gatelli. He's now 10 months old. So that's him on Easter. And then in the middle, I don't know if anyone goes to Terrytown Methodist Church, but Reverend Holly Gatelli is my mother-in-law. So that is her with her husband, and then me, AJ, and my husband, Andy Gatelli. They're all Anthony's. And then this is on the other side is my grandmother, my mom, and AJ. He was, I think, 3 months old there, so he was a little baby.
He's turning a year when?
He'll turn 1 year June 16th.
That's a good picture.
Yes, it is.
Very happy, very happy. All right, thank you all. Don't forget to buy your wine tasting tickets in the back. See you next time.